The word trans is an umbrella term which covers a spectrum ranging from those who cross-dress right through to a transsexual person who has undergone gender reassignment. Transgender is a more specific term that relates to a person who may have gone through gender reassignment to make their appearance more consistent with their gender identity. Although many people make the assumption that being transgender also defines a person's sexuality, this is not the case. A person's gender identity and their sexuality are distinct, and one does not imply the other. We live in a world where transgender people face discrimination and harassment on a daily basis. Due to the difficulties they encounter, transgender people are at a far greater risk of depression, self-harm and suicide than the general population. In a recent study by the European Union Agency for Fundamental Rights, it was found that 30% of transgender people said that they often to always feel there is a negative attitude towards them in the workplace. 61% of those have hidden their gender identity at work. The Scottish Transgender Alliance did a national trans mental health study in 2012, and it was found that 72% of transgender people feel being trans had an impact on the amount of control they had over their lives, and 84% of respondents had thought about ending their lives. How would you feel if you had to pretend to be someone else, to hide your past and make up stories about your personal life just to avoid hurtful comments and potential prejudice? Blackpool Council asked 12 transgender individuals to tell us their story about their experiences of everyday life. We asked them to tell us about the good and the bad, to share their insight into what would make them feel accepted as an equal member of society, and to not have to worry about being judged just for being who they are.
The tutor at the time was a bit confused of what I meant, which trans-like status I was. So she basically turned round to me and said, "So can I just get it simple? Do you have a vagina or not?"
I'd walk past a group of people and then I'd see them stare at me. And then as I was walking away, I'd hear them behind me saying, "Is that a man or a woman?" I can feel that being excluded by everyone is having a severely negative impact on my studying.
I've had positive discrimination at work, where people have gone out of their way to try and make me feel accepted, like every other member of staff. And in going out of their way to do so, it's positive discrimination. Although they don't mean anything by it, I don't want to be treated any differently to anyone else.
It's a lack of knowing. Education, it's massive. There's a massive gap in education. It's not how you dress or who you have sex with, it's who you are.
The lack of consistency in the way transgender people are treated led Blackpool Council to make a series of recommendations. A number of simple to implement but effective suggestions to make workplaces and public buildings more transgender aware and accessible.
I think the more they understand what the issue is, the less likely they are to discriminate against it. That's the main thing.
My work have absolutely gone above and beyond, but they've changed. They've rewritten policies to cater for the trans community because I'm the first that they know of trans member of staff. So they've rewritten every policy and they've got all kinds of different agencies and different bodies, spoke with all of them around the country to improve the way that they not only deal with the staff, but especially how they deal with people in the community, because they're very big in all that, which is good, it's positive.
On the application form for a job, it seems to be all categorised, like you're a man or you're a woman. And if you have a different title, it's like, where's the space for the other title? I think it should be put there. And employees should be aware of all the titles out there and what they mean, because I've got a title and not many people recognise it.
I think one of the first things to see in a job advert or university webpage should actually say, we welcome trans people, because it kind of shows you they've thought about it.
To me, if I end up in hospital again, it's useful for somebody to know my medical details, or that I've got a mental health problem. But they don't need to know I'm trans. Whether they figure it out when I go in, it's up to them, but it doesn't need to be written down anywhere.
Professionals' choice of vernacular in hospitals needs updating, no matter how you appear, because they can be quite rude and hurtful.
I've always been made aware of the anti-bullying and harassment policies in both areas of work and education. Knowing that they have a policy for that, and if I encounter anything, I can actually do something about it.
If you want to make your office or working environment a more welcoming place for transgender people, making the following changes can make a big difference. Be willing to train and learn, and train others. Make trans people aware of equality policies and stick to them. Consider titles on forms. Be actively trans-friendly. Only refer to transgender issues where relevant and necessary. Ask how they want to be addressed or how they want to be treated. Put appropriate procedures in place to deal with issues that arise.
Once I was in an environment where people were being nice to me and accepting of me, that's when I flourished. And if it could always be that environment, and I don't see why it shouldn't be, if I could always be in an environment like that, I think I'll succeed. It's just when you're being discriminated against or when you're being isolated, it's difficult to achieve your best.